Webomaniacs. World of...
What are you doing? You're supposed to meet me out front. It's fine.
And I'm here at your doorstep with the World Heavyweight Championship.
Wow, that's strong, brother. He's got Hulkamania wristbands on.
Sign on the dotted line.
I will, brother.
And surrender the title to me.
Whoa!
Wow.
What?
Out of your mouth. We're going to start out on the right foot. I got something that'll keep you going all day long, Daddy. Don't worry about a thing, brother. This is the eye of the Hulkster, man. You got to get your head right.
Oh, no.
This is the only way to go.
Welcome to Webomaniacs, World of Wrestling. I am the Webomaniac, and today's topics are tag team wrestling. We're going to tell you how it works. We're going to tell you our favorites. Factions, strength in numbers. Same type of thing. We'll tell you our favorites. Managers, here 1 minute, gone the next. And do tag teams need managers? We're also going to cover, from top to bottom, our picks for the upcoming hit of the summer, SummerSlam. That and a whole lot more here on Webomaniacs, World of Wrestling. And I just want to say it's good to have you back here in our little studio here, Austin. We missed you last time, actually, on the show. So, don't be fooled, folks, that when you do a show, don't just go solo. There's always a other side of the story, as it were, here. And Austin, you can tell us yours. As we're going to be, like I just said, we're going to talk about tag team wrestling. Tag team wrestling started actually in 1905, way before I was even born. But I did some reading on it, and it started actually in San Francisco. Austin, tell me about your favorite tag teams. What do you think tag team wrestling means to the business? Does it actually serve a purpose in your eyes?
Thank you for having me back. Hello, folks. So, tag team wrestling, to me, should and always be, in my opinion, a very prominent force of nature in the world of professional wrestling. It may not be as big as it was back, say, in the 1970s, 1980s. But you realize back then you had tag teams like the Road Warriors, Heart Foundation. You had Rock and Roll Express, Von Erichs. Over the years, as the tag team division got bigger, the business itself changed and switched directions when it came to tag team wrestling. Now, you ask what my favorite tag teams are. I got a couple. Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Rockers, of course, the APA, Hardys. Those are just some of my faves. But to me, tag team wrestling is everything in the wrestling business, and it should stay prominent and be as such.
Well, okay, I can understand where you're coming from on that. To me, tag team wrestling as a whole, it can actually serve in helping develop your storyline. you've seen in many instances where it's through a tag team that splits up and creates even more storyline to develop, to make things more relevant amongst the two, to develop a better character. Case in point, Rick Martel turning on Tito Santana. That right there, we got Rick the Model Martel, the purveyor of arrogance. As far as my particular pick, that I would say, you named off at least three. You actually said one of them that was indeed one of my earlier favorites. And then, of course, as the business grows and booms more, you got others like you named, as well as when you said APA. My favorite will actually include the Steiner brothers. Couldn't get a better brother combination other than the Von Erichs. But you couldn't get a better combination of brothers than you had when you had the Steiner brothers. They were unique in what they did. The dog-faced gremlin actually posing with his brother like a dog, on a chain. And that was good for show. That was good for spotlight when you're a fan out there in those seats cheering them on. It gave you something to actually cheer for. So Steiner brothers get my favorite as far as tag teams, but we could debate who was better in what, when, and where, and everything. Another one that actually really doesn't get the credibility that they deserve is, well, you mentioned one. It was Road Warriors. Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, the Legion of Doom. I mean, strong guy-wise, got to be in that top three of, like you said, APA and these guys. I only give Steiner brothers what they do because they went on to evolve into something more. I mean, APA, you end up with a guy like Farouk and Nation of Domination. It just didn't gel as well as something like that would happen with Steiner's, NWO, Big Bad Booty Daddy, that kind of thing. I mean, I could go on and on, but I won't. Now we're going to talk about factions. Strength in numbers. Does factions factor in to gang mentality to you? And is that actually good for the business based on another clear example, NWO, where you had so many members actually joining NWO to the point who was left really to fight? It was a matter of, if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. So factions, are there strength in numbers, and when's the time to actually lay it off? Because you got these factions going on like with the bloodline. Every time I turn around, there's somebody else has been born out of that family. What say you?
Factions is that type of thing that, yes, strength in numbers is good, but also at the same time it can be a bad thing. You've got, if for example you have a lot of wrestlers in one faction, people coming in and joining, who is there really other to fight and on the opposite side of the ring when you're wanting to create these big factions, but you don't necessarily have the roster or don't necessarily have story plans to keep them going? Now, the NWO had a reputation. They had longevity. Kind of like the Wyatt family, the Nation of Domination, DX. But at a certain time, the top guy in those factions need to break out, branch, and split. Case in point, Rock and Nation of Domination, Triple H with DX. The list goes on and on. But factions, they could be a good and a bad thing for the wrestling industry.
Well, another faction that came to my mind was we can't go on any program, ours or anyone else's, without making mention of the Four Horsemen. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, as it were to say, for wrestling. And I find it actually funny and relative to the fact that when we had the Four Horsemen, and they would call it an apocalypse, now you had NWO, which was the New World Order. So we're going biblically, if you will, throughout wrestling here, and we're writing story through the ring, if you stop and think about it. So you had Four Horsemen, followed by New World Order, and after the New World Order came Judgment Day. And now we have Judgment Day, and now it goes back full circle with being led by Paul Ellering, the Final Testament. Where do you go from something like that when you're thinking factions? Factions done religiously or sacrilegiously, if the case may be. And I just mentioned Paul Ellering. He is a manager. He is a manager. So it's not like that we don't still have managers, but there's very few. There's very few. And after the wise man, Paul Heyman, took the bump he did to keep that storyline going for the Bloodline Civil War, as I'm going to call it, that's going to be coming out of that and everything. Managers, they're here one minute, but gone the next. You had guys like Jim Cornette, Tennis Racket, with the Midnight Express, another good tag team that I will actually speak on behalf of. And I'm not talking about the original Midnight Express. I'm talking about Sweet Stan Lane and Beautiful Bobby Eaton. That's the one that I said stood the test of time, as well as the Rock and Roll Express, which, they're actually still wrestling. They're still wrestling out in NWA. I don't catch a lot of NWA. My primary focus is WWE, AEW. Occasionally I'll catch a Ring of Honor. Occasionally I'll catch a TNA or something. But for the primarily WWE, AEW is my focus. But as far as managers, they're here one minute, then gone the next. Do tag teams need managers in this day and age?
That is a very good question to propose. My honest opinion is no. Managers are prominent and have been prominent over the years of professional wrestling, but there comes a time when a team depends on its star power can climb to the top without a manager. It's few and far in between this day and age. But would I prefer tag teams to have managers this day and age? Yes. Yes, I would. I think it would be cool. I think it would be great. It would be a fresh new twist on something that was once old is now new again.
Definitely. Something that's old is now new again. I like that analogy of yours there, Austin. And again, For those that are tuning in, if you saw last week and you didn't see this guy on, he's a good co-host to help me out. I thank you for actually doing this with me here, Austin. The show it's really starting to take off. We're getting more hits actually on Facebook than we have on YouTube. But if you want to catch us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button, go to youtube.com/Webomaniac. That's WEBOMANIAC. Catch us on Thursdays and Saturdays, both on Facebook and YouTube. But as I said, Facebook, I had over 47 people actually watch or something within the first day, and that doesn't usually happen for me. So it's growing by the numbers as we carry on here. And speaking of numbers, we have about 7 matches we need to cover one at a time and give our opinions on, because one of the biggest events of the summer is about to take place next week. This next Saturday, we're going to be tuning in to WWE's annual SummerSlam. And before we just get started here, I want to take a minute out to actually wish a happy 55th birthday to none other than one Triple H, Paul Levesque. Happy birthday on this day, this Saturday here. From all of us here at Webomaniacs World of Wrestling. So here we have SummerSlam, Austin. I'm going to talk about, and I'm going and working this down the card as I would see it presented to me. But this is just a random order, and then we're going to eventually get to Cody and Solo. But for now, Logan Paul versus LA Knight. I have LA Knight taking that title from Logan Paul finally. And one of the reasons is due to a lawsuit that Logan Paul is facing here these days involving his Prime energy drink here. And I do believe he's going to be into quite a pickle of having to be there. So he ain't going to be able to go around defending the title. So my pick in that one is going to be LA Knight. Yeah.
I agree. I see LA Knight taking it and just skyrocketing to the top with it. Oh, let me talk to you. But yeah, I see LA Knight taking the championship and defending in it how a champion is supposed to defend the championship. Not every now and then on an occurrence. Every week. Every PLE. LA Knight is a workhorse. For those of you who do not know, or may know, before LA Knight was LA Knight, he was Eli Drake in Impact Wrestling. Back to you, David.
I swore you would have segued in on the opening to that last one. As soon as I said LA Knight, yeah, you would have said, let me talk to you. You got it in there, but it was just a little bit after the first statement there. But that's okay. Rolling on here. We both agree. Okay, I guess I'm not going to get $1 on that one, am I, Austin? Hey, but if we did, that'd be $7 here. We ought to start doing something like that for these PLEs. You and I pick our bets on who we actually would go with, and just do a minuscule $1 just to say or something. And then if you end up with seeing something hit your Cash App, you can actually, who knows? Yeah, we might actually start doing something like that. But yeah, so we're both in agreement that LA Knight is going to beat Logan Paul for that United States Championship. It will be good to see if he does and how he does it. So now, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. I have Sami Zayn winning it on a DQ when Braun Breaker blows his top. Just can't hold it in. And I foresee a disqualification helping him keep his title, even though that's not the way he wants it to go down. And I don't foresee anything like 5 more minutes or anything like that. But I have Sami Zayn over Braun Breaker at SummerSlam. What say you?
That's definitely a hard match to call. With me being in a situation where I like Sami, I also like Braun. But I'm gonna go with Braun on this one. It's just over the weeks he snapped too much. They keep dangling the strap in front of him, and he gets it taken back from him. So I'm going with Braun Breaker over Sami Zayn at SummerSlam.
And you do realize SummerSlam is loaded down with title matches galore on this. You may as well actually call this the Night of Champions pre-show or something, is what you should call something like this. But I'm with you on that. I mean, Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. Braun has snapped quite a bit, but that's where I think it's going to be his undoing, and he's going to not be able to handle it, you know. So now we're going to talk to you about Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. I think Dom ends up messing something up, and it causes Liv to retain, and that's just going to really put Ripley in a roar to want to really get back at her in a mean way in some time in the future. Because Ripley, as we know, she just recently got married. You know, her and Buddy Matthews had their honeymoon. Ripley's back. And I myself, I'd be curious to know what Matthews' reaction was when Rhea licked Dom, to throw that illusion to us fans that everything's going to stay the same way, that, you know, we're not going to be taken in, or she's not going to let us be taken in by what we think is going to happen. Rhea likes to go that dark route, that dark play scenario. That's why it's Judgment Day, and that's why they're very dark-ish type characters. And I just think Dom does something that's going to end up messing it up for Mommy, only for Liv Morgan to retain and keep that fire between those two going. That's what I think. What do you think? And you can tell us what you think by writing me at webomaniac211@gmail.com.
I'm in agreement. I see Dom interfering in some type of way. Liv retaining and keeping the fiery romance between the two going, only to have Rhea come back and do something completely dark, twisted, and disastrous later on down the road. As we all know, Dom's track record of listening when he's given an order isn't all that great.
He wouldn't even listen to his daddy, so what makes you think he's going to listen to Mommy? You know? Speaking of, let's go right on into the next Judgment Day match. Damian Priest, World Heavyweight Championship versus Gunther. Now this one, I think, is going to go along the lines of what we talked about as far as factions being strength in numbers. Damian Priest is going to end up wanting to do this by himself, only to get taken over by Gunther with a reemergence of Imperium. Yes, Imperium looked like it imploded a while back, but I could see Kaiser making a mark and making a play into that picture. And I see Gunther as your world heavyweight champion, proving that Damian Priest is only a trans champion, transparent.
I agree with you on that one. Reemerging of Imperium. Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni interferes. 1, 2, 3, your new world champion. King of the Ring, Gunther. There's many ways that match can go, but I do believe we're going to have a new world champion after next Saturday.
So far, you've agreed with me on one. You've only disagreed with me on one. You think Braun Breaker's taking Sami Zayn, but the rest of them we've been pretty on spot for here. Dang, I'm not going to make any money out of you, Austin. Bayley versus Nia Jax. My prediction is there's going to be a double cross, as it's going to be Tiffy time when Tiffany Stratton is going to cash in after Bayley ends up being successful over Nia. Nia's going to be so distraught by something, she's going to get knocked for a loop with the case, and she's going to be cashing in on Bayley, as a knocked out Nia will be off to the side. And that's where I think a blow up between Nia and Tiffany emerge to keep a relevant story playing on.
Again, I agree. I see Tiffany coming in whacking Nia upside the head with the briefcase after Bayley's successful retaining. 1, 2, 3, new women's champion. Tiffany has the charisma to beat the women's champion. The ball is in her court, as if she decides she wants to make that move.
Now, that leads me to talk even more along the lines of just being a fan and outside of the card of SummerSlam here. But that brings me to Bayley there. Is Bayley, in your eyes, still a face? Or is she still a heel? Where do you say she's in this particular spectrum of her career? Because I see her fans cheering, but she still comes out to sort of like the little darkish kind of music that she does. There's no Bayley buddies or anything, inflatable tube men or anything like that. I just wonder what your take would be on Bayley as a whole, and let's give her kudos here for being a women's champion as many times as she has, and she's carrying that ball quite nicely. But it will indeed, I think, be Tiffy time. And continuing, and while it's actually Tiffy time for her, it'll be time for us to tell you, Webomaniacs, World of Wrestling, catch us every Thursday and Saturday right here on youtube.com/Webomaniac. CM Punk versus Drew with Seth as the special guest referee. You and I talked off camera about this, and you gave me a scenario of something that actually replays old storylines with same line, different actors or different performers in this instance. Because once again, wrestling is a performance art. But what's your take on CM Punk versus Drew? This thing's been building and building between these two. Each one screwed the other. Could Seth in any way do something to... I think Seth, from Seth being so mad at Survivor Series at the War Games when Punk made his appearance, the one person that was so mad about that was indeed this special guest referee, Seth Rollins. Seth has pretty much been out due to injuries and such things, as well as his wife has pretty much made a hiatus. Could you see CM Punk versus Drew, with Drew actually coming out the winner of this once Seth does something to Punk? That's what I see. I see Drew taking it.
I see Drew taking it because as I'm watching this storyline unfold, I think back between Brett and Shawn. There's so many times that they screwed each other, match after match after match. What I think will happen, though, if they rewrite and recycle this storyline like I'm thinking it will, Seth will smack Punk with a chair, setting McIntyre up to deliver the Claymore. 1, 2, 3, setting up for Punk versus Drew at Bad Blood. That's how I see it. That's how I call it.
So Bad Blood is your next standing point, or PLE, of where we're going as far as continuance of storyline, relevancy, and things like that. Speaking of relevancy, on the island of relevancy, it's going to be Cody versus Solo. For me personally, I think Cody's going to retain, but you better keep an eye out for Roman Reigns to make a face turn. Some in the business, I was watching some other podcast earlier today, and some said that it would be a mistake to bring Roman back because people aren't necessarily missing him. Therefore, the element of surprise needs to be there so that somebody can be shocked out of their boots if, in fact, he makes his return. Almost every time when the Bloodline has been out there talking, I hear a "We want Roman" chant all the time there. Even when Heyman was walking to the ring with Solo before he denounced, saying that he would acknowledge him as the tribal chief, I just don't necessarily see that, and I think Cody is going to be your victor in this. As to how exactly, that we have to wait to see unfold. But I'm guesstimating, if they want to bring Roman back, and you haven't seen him since WrestleMania, in the older 80s days, and you only had 4 pay-per-views, you had SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. That's how it went. Now you have all these others in between. In between those, you had to all but wait a series of about 2 to 3 months per pay-per-view or per PLE. And the way I'm rolling this to play out is I really think there's been enough time between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. I think there's been enough time that you should bring Roman back at this particular time. if he's actually healthy enough and cleared.
I see Cody retaining, but not without any interference. How that will play out, I don't know. But at the end of the night, when all the flames died down and the smoke settles, the American Nightmare will emerge victorious and retain his championship.
Well, now we have it right there. So you agree with me on Cody, Bailey, Gunther, Liv Morgan. We disagree on Sami Zayn and Braun. You just think he's got more brawn for him to use to break Sami Zayn, I suppose. And as far as LA Knight's going to be SummerSlam's going to be his night. And this has been our night on Saturday night. Catch us on Thursday. You never know what me and Austin are going to come up with to talk about, but we need to know what you want to talk about. So you need to get on the horn here. Contact me at Webomaniac211 on my Instagram. Plus, you can actually message me if you're one of the Facebook friends that actually watch this. And if you're not a friend, send me a request. We can actually get you on this show to give your thoughts and takes as a wrestling fan. This is only a fan's opinion. This has been my opinion. Austin, it's great to have your opinion out there again, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Folks, enjoy the rest of your night.
Well, that's going to wrap it up this week, folks. Join us next time for another thrilling edition of Webomaniacs World of Wrestling. Thanks, folks.